Hi guys, and hello from the hilltop. I'm Waxahachie Blue, and I want to welcome you to my channel, The Plateau Perfectionist. Today's video is my March 2022 plan with me in my SEQES dot journal. So I am doing a 2-color challenge for the year 2022. So for this month, I will be using this purple Crayola Super Tip, which I ended up using my own number system, so that's why it has the number 20 at the bottom, as well as this Kuratake Dot Marker in the green color. I will go ahead and let you know right now, when it comes to markers, the dot markers do actually layer pretty well. So I ended up getting a lot more dimension in my green color than I did in the purple. For those of you who are not particularly proficient with Crayola Super Tip markers, different colors layer on each other pretty well, but if you're just doing the same color, they don't layer nearly as well. You can't get as much depth with just the same Crayola Super Tip color on top of itself. Whereas zebra mod liners, these dot markers, and the Tombos, they layer very well. So for those of you who also don't know, I say that a lot, I do apologize. My particular art style is what I like to call scribble art. It's very loose, it is very natural, and it's, as you can see, it's not perfect in any respect. For this particular month, my theme for these 2 colors is Scottish Thistles, so that is the plant that I am drawing here. They're very similar to almost like a dandelion in their kind of pointy-ish leaves. Their stalks grow with these little intermittent wiggly sprig pieces, and then they have a bushel ball type bulb at the top, which eventually blooms into these, they look like kind of purple dandelions in some respects. So in order to kind of get the natural look, my scribble art always seems to work very well with organic art, such as florals, vines work real well, grass. So that's how my art style works, and I think it actually did very well for these thistles. Also for the month of March, if you've ever watched any of my other March videos, I do a Minimalist March. So for this particular March, I went with just the plants in the center, just March in the simple font, and then I did do a quote on the other side, and that's it. I will admit, so instead of using a black marker, which I usually do for my outlines and things, I ended up getting these Le Pens for Christmas. Thank you, Mom. And I really liked how the dark green layered both as an outline as well as just a writing utensil for this particular month. I think it matched very well. So I opted to go for the green Le Pen as my writing color instead of a general black. Also, I apparently screwed up on my location for these words. My word consideration smooshed into the edge and I didn't like it, so I ended up covering it with washi tape, because that's the entire purpose of washi tape, is to cover up your mistakes. Anyway, this particular quote is from, since I did thistles, I thought of House on Pooh Corner, specifically Eeyore. So this is a quote from Eeyore, and it says, "A little consideration, a little thought for others makes all the difference." And I didn't try to do any fancy font. I just wrote it like I usually do. And it's not spaced as perfectly as I would like, but it is what it is. And if anybody's ever seen Eeyore, hopefully you have, he is not perfect. He has a tail that falls off all the time, so I think it works. It's just a little thought. So here's another little tidbit of information. When I originally pulled my 2 colors, I actually ended up with green and gray. My gray dot, my Kuratake Dot Marker, and it is dead. It is dead as a doornail, dead. I did attempt to use it as a kind of like a background shading color for the thistles on the right hand page here. You'll see that later, and you will also notice the more I use it, the more faded it gets. So it's just dead. There's no saving that poor marker. So I retired it to the trash bin, and that's one reason why I ended up with I had to draw a secondary color, which ended up being the purple, which actually worked out best because then I could do all these thistles. Something else I decided to do for the month of March is, instead of doing a regular calendar spread, I ended up doing this table. This is my calendar. This left-hand page here is my calendar. I have all of the days, and there are 2 different columns. I have one for like holidays, birthdays, personal type information, and then on the other side I have a space for work information, because I do have some things coming up in March that I will need to keep track of for work, and so this is how I decided to do my calendar for this particular month. I also added this little Dutch door here. So something I also like to do, weirdly enough, I like to do it in March, is instead of doing like a mood tracker, I like to do a word of the day. So this is the equivalent for my mood tracker. Each day I will write down a single word to kind of describe my mood. And I try not to use the most basic words like happy, sad, angry. I like to use different, more descriptive words like perplexed or exhausted, things of that nature. And then on the inside of the Dutch door is my habit tracker. I noticed that without having the habit tracker like I had in January, so I don't have a habit tracker in February, I slacked on some of my habits quite proficiently. So I decided to incorporate a habit tracker again for this particular month to hopefully keep me a little more, what's the word I want? I'm going to call myself out on it. Let's put it that way. I also included this little quote from James Clear. He's the one that wrote the book Atomic Habits, which I enjoy so much. I have actually listened to it twice on Audible, and I actually need to get myself a paper copy because I liked it so much. I ended up trying to do this green in the background, and it didn't work well. It really looks terrible. It both looks terrible on screen as well as in my actual journal. So what I ended up doing later, and you'll see it, is I took one of my craft paper sticky notes and rewrote the quote and put it over it. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. And then I just wanted to have these some more thistles and just keep it very organic, very simple. I really enjoyed how well the dot marker layered over itself. Once you add the outline to them, these really do look very nice. In case you were curious on how I draw these, when it comes to drawing thistles, so start with a simple kind of almost an S shape for the stalk, about an inch or so in between. Add the little squiggly bits for where there is a break in the stalk. Now periodically on those breaks, especially towards the ground or wherever you have perceived the ground to be in your art, that's where you're going to fan out and put the leaves. The leaves are usually 3-part leaves, so there's a center and then 2 wings. I guess you call them wings. I am not a botanist. I don't know how to describe these things. But they give them a little bit of a jagged edge to them because they are not smooth leaves like a eucalyptus leaf is. They're much more jagged. Like I said, I referenced dandelions as well in order to get a more organic look to them. And they are like a dandelion. They are low to the ground plants. So most of the leaves are down at the base where the ground is, if you were to, and then, and then the thistles are on the big ball of purple is up at the top. And so when a thistle opens, it starts as a bulb, just like a dandelion, and then it kind of poofs out for the thistle bits. and just keep it very organic and very natural looking. And surprise, surprise, you will probably end up with something that looks similar to a thistle. Either that or a purple dandelion. One of the two. But, give it a go. Try. In the meantime, on to my budget. So this is my budget. You've seen it a gazillion million times. This was one of the few spots in my bullet journal that I ended up adding thistles at the bottom of the page, just to kind of give it a bit of a change. I had not pre-sketched or pre-drawn these thistles at the bottom, so these were all just off the top of my head. I personally don't think they came out nearly as good as some of my other free-handed thistles that I do later in my weekly spreads, but it gave it a nice pop of color at the bottom, and that's how we're going to go. In the meantime, I'm going to let you listen to the music, enjoy the drawing, and I will catch up with you in the next spread. So since I did go for a minimalist look for my months of March, I decided to do just one-page weeklies. And so this particular spread has the first week and the second week. The next one will have the third week, the fourth week, and then the next page will have the fifth week, and then my space for sticky notes. Like I said, I go for a minimalist look for March. That's just something that I personally like to do. Amanda Rachel likes to do her green theme for the month of March. I like to do Minimalist March. So the first week of March had, was it 6 days instead of 7? Yes, 6 days instead of 7. And so I had this little squiggly bit down at the bottom of the left page. And I didn't quite know what to do with it. I thought about putting a quote, but I was like, no, I don't want to. So I bought a book off of Amazon about dot journaling, just because I wanted to kind of think outside the box of what kind of spreads to do. And one of the ones that they recommended was kind of like a wins and rants spot, just a spot to write down, some of your wins for the week, or some ranting bits for your week, whatever you want to do. And so that's what I decided to put there. In the meantime, the weeks will look the same regardless of this week, or next week, or even the week after that. The plants will be different, but I decided to keep them all very simple, very minimal, by just using the green line in between each day. So each of these boxes will be the day. I used purple to just kind of write the day, the letter for the representation of each day of the week, as well as the date number, and just a little bit of a green to kind of break up the space for the words versus my writing space. And that is how I did it. I did include a little bit of a tab on each of my weeks. There's only 3 because since these are one-page weeklies, I've got 2 weeks here. I don't need a bunch of extra tabs. Just kept it very simple. What you won't see in the video is I did go back after I was done filming and added just a little bit of that purple washi. The green, since it is so narrow, was not going to do what I needed it to do. Excuse me. So I ended up using purple for the edging on my weeklies, as well as I ended up going back and doing it on that small Dutch door where my word of the day is. Because I told y'all at the beginning of this month, or the beginning of this year, I was going to try to add more washi, at least to the edges of my pages, to help better just partition my months so I could see them a chunk at a time. Something I have also started doing is at the end where one month ends and another month begins, I have been gluing the page in between together to make that particular partition thicker. I don't know why, but at least subconsciously when I touch it, I can tell, even if I'm not really thinking, if I'm just kind of not even, just flipping through the pages, I can feel that extra thickness and know, that's the end of one month and that's the beginning of another month. Maybe that's, like I said, maybe it's just a subconscious thing. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know, but it works for me. So these were some more organic, free flow doodles of thistles. As you could see, I didn't have any sort of sketch here for where I wanted the thistles. I didn't particularly like the leaves. I should have made the leaves bigger in my personal opinion, especially down at the bottom where they're the ground level leaves. They should have been at least across the 2 pages, but here I am critiquing my own artwork while I'm doing a voiceover. Oh well, live and learn and then get loves, as the commercial says. But yes, and so like I said, the weeklies are going to look about the same for the entire month, and then on the final page, you'll see here in a minute or two, I did add 1 page for stickies, because as I've mentioned before, I love sticky notes. Clearly this is not going to be enough space to put said stickies, so I always try to give, if I'm not going to have enough space in my weekly to put a sticky note, and I know I'm going to need one, I will make myself a designated space for sticky notes for each month, so it's a place I know exactly, hey, I have a grocery list, this is where I'm going to put it, because grocery lists are not going to fit in these teeny tiny little boxes. A 1 page weekly like this is usually good for very short tasks, just short, sweet, to the point, bullet tasks, dot tasks, which is kind of the purpose of a dot journal. It's another reason why I went ahead and built the habit tracker on a different page instead of trying to do little boxes here in my weeklies, which I have done before. The only thing I may include box-wise that I will do for each day is maybe a weight tracker, just because I do like to keep tabs on what my weight is every so often. I've cut back on how often I check my weight. I used to do it every day. These days, if I miss it, I don't feel as bad. But it's just one of those things. So I do have the space for the sticky notes on the right hand page. I have just a few days here on my final week for the month, and then I did add another quote at the bottom of the page. In the meantime, I'm gonna just let y'all go and enjoy the music, enjoy the drawing, and I will catch you at the end. Bye. Alright guys, it is time for the flip through. So here is my final flip through. As you can see, I added that washi on the edge of a couple of these pages just to kind of break up the monotony of all the white and the negative space. In the meantime, I want to thank y'all for sitting here and taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate it. I don't do this for money or anything. I do this just for fun, just to kind of express myself and to teach myself a little bit about video and editing. So I appreciate each and every one of you for sitting here and watching my work. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel inspired. If you did enjoy it, by all means, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I always love to hear comments. And thanks for watching. Oh, something else. Someone had requested me picking colors for my upcoming month, so that's exactly what I ended up doing. I ended up filming the 2 colors that I will be using for next month. So the month of April, I will be using my Crayola Super Tip number 32, as well as my dot marker in Summer Sun. And those 2 are right there on the page. Hopefully I can make something beautiful and interesting with them. In the meantime, I'll see y'all next month.